stunning looks than swift.
They're known as the best team to have never won a World Cup. South Africa's tournament gets underway at the same venue that they began their 2011 campaign. That's in Delhi. And this time they're taking on Sri Lanka to open up their 2023 World Cup campaign. This is Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPNcricinfo MatchDay. And we're joined by Wasim, Jaffer and Steyn, who knows a lot about South Africa and South Africa at World Cups, to discuss this fixture. Del, we got to start with the bowling because that's really the big talking point for South Africa. Anrich Nortje and Sisanda Magala missing out with injuries. Is that going to put a lot more pressure on Kagiso Rabada to step up and lead the attack even more than he usually does?
Look, I'd hope not, because when the guys are firing around KG, then he's allowed to kind of go out there and, I know these old cliches, but express himself. But that's when I find that KG is at his best, when he's got a well-groomed attack around him. Certainly in the years past, when he had a Morne Morko or Vernon around him, you'd see the best come out of KG. There was a series against Australia where he was just phenomenal, but you kind of forgot how well Morne and Vernon bowled. And that's the situation we find ourselves in now. Without an Anrich Nortje, can Lungi and Gidi step up to the plate? Will Marco Jansen, in his short international career, be able to do a similar role to what those guys did for KG so that he can go out there and perform? The replacements are decent replacements. Lazard, great bowler. I can't remember who else came in now. Andile Petlicoyo, he's been around the block for a while, handy kind of character and can bat. So it really boils down to how Lungi is going to step up with KG with that new ball. I watched him bowl the other night, and he was the top of the bowlers with Marco. So they kind of outshone KG a little bit there, which is a good thing for now.
Yeah, and you're talking about the new ball, which is in fact South Africa's biggest area of concern, because if we look at some of the numbers, South Africa since 2021 are the team with the highest bowling average in the power play. It's 41.9, and Afghanistan are next. We know that they're also in action on match day 3. So it's really a slight area of concern that they have to be able to break into the opposition's top order. But Wasim, Sri Lanka, I mean, they got bowled out for 50 in their most recent competitive outing. That's probably not a reflection of how good they've been. I watched them at the World Cup qualifiers where they were really clinical. Is their batting and maybe the top 5 or 6 the concern, or is there something else for you?
I don't think so. I think they've been marred by a few injuries. They missed a few of the bowlers, but the batting, I mean, the names that they've got, they've been decent players. They've done the job as well. On that day, obviously, Siraj bowled really well, but you expect them to come good. Whatever their team, you always find them, the youngsters or whoever turns up to deliver time and again. So you expect that from Sri Lanka. They've got decent spin attack. They've got decent seamers who are back, which they were missing in the Asia Cup. The batting is decent. They've got few all-rounders. So you expect them a better performance in this tournament.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about Sri Lanka spinners, because the conversation often when South Africa play, and especially when they play in the subcontinent, is that it will be the spin that will undo them. And personally, I think that's a little bit of a myth. I think they've improved against spin, and we've seen a lot of them learning and bringing out the sweeps and the reverse sweeps and so on. But Sri Lanka spinners, we're talking about players like Dinuth Wellalagi, Dhananjay De Silva, Charita Salanka. They have the best average for a spin bowling unit in those middle overs, 11 to 40. How do you think South Africa need to counter that, and what do they need to do to keep the run rate ticking?
Obviously, their top order needs to fire, against the new ball, and their spinners, especially they're playing at Delhi, which will assist spin. We have seen in the IPL, the ball has spun there. We haven't seen a huge scoring in the IPL, 140, 150 were the winning scores there. So you expect Sri Lankan spinners to come good. Theekshana is another guy. So I think their spin will be dominated, but South Africa have got some decent batters. Quinton de Kock, Heinrich Klaasen, I think is one of the better guys who play spins really, really well. David Miller have been around. Temba Bavuma is in good form. So I think they've got the batters who can play spin well. And it's a tricky pitch, but I think South Africa hold the edge a little bit.
Okay, so that's the prediction there from Wasim, Jaffer. South Africa hold the edge. Del, we can't leave this kind of preview without talking about Heinrich Klaasen. He's in the form of his life, having an amazing 2023. Is he going to be the difference?
Yeah, he's certainly been phenomenal in the last, say, 2 years. Him and David Miller, actually. David Miller's... I sensed David Miller's transformation came when he was playing against India in a recent series, maybe 2 years ago, and he was facing Ashwin, and off-spin seemed to always be the better of him. And there's one shot that I remember him hitting Ashwin back over his head for 6. And since then, it just feels like David Miller changed this kind of thought process in his mind that he could take down off-spin. And since he's been able to do that, we've seen South Africa's middle overs run rate go up with the inclusion of Heinrich Klaasen. But it's down to David Miller, and I don't know his exact stats, but if you go and look at it, you'll probably see that in the last 2 years, his average has gone up, and hence why South Africa have done well in those middle orders and got the big scores that they've been wanting to, or chased down scores. So him and Klaasen are key for South Africa in the middle order.
Yeah, lower middle order power hitting, always a question for South Africa, and we'll have to see how they do against Sri Lanka at the Arun Jaitley Stadium in Delhi, where they take them on in their World Cup opener on Saturday.
Stunning looks, then swift,